Hi guys, how are you? Today we're going to continue with chapter 3 that is about biodiversity and conservation, and we are going to start with chapter 3.2 that is about origins of biodiversity. So from this chapter we need to know about evolution, what is evolution, what is biodiversity again, what is an environmental change, what are the six mass extinctions events that we have. We are in the number 6 now. We have been through 5 mass extinction events. Then an application and skill, we need to know how to explain how evolution and biodiversity are together influenced and how to discuss the causes of mass extinctions, okay? From this knowledge and understanding, again, we need to know the definitions and concepts of biodiversity, natural selection, environmental change, speciation, isolation of populations, and mass extinctions. Those are the main topics that we need to know from this chapter, okay? So we're going to start with an introduction here. And let's first understand what is evolution. Evolution is a gradual change in the genetic character of populations. So we're talking here about genes, right? Over many generations. So it means that it takes a lot of time. Achieved largely through the mechanism of natural selection. So this is the mechanism that is going to help to have this process of evolution, natural selection. So, but remember, natural selection doesn't grant organisms what they need. In some occasions, yes, in some occasions, no, okay? So evolution is a gradual change in the genetic character of populations over many generations through the process of natural selection. But how? So first, when we talk about a change in the genetic character, we're talking about a mutation. A mutation is that, a change in the DNA or maybe RNA. So something has changed. Remember, from DNA, we obtain RNA, and then from that RNA, proteins are produced. And proteins are the main factors that help to develop different physical characteristics. When I say physical characteristics, is maybe the color of the eye, the length of the limbs, any kind of physical characteristic. So from this, we have a mutation in one species. Mutation creates variation. When a mutation happens, it can happen for a change in the pair of bases in the DNA molecule. So instead of having adenine and thymine in that place, and something happened in the mechanism of replication, and instead of adenine and thymine, we're going to have cytosine and guanine. And that is going to change the protein that was produced at the beginning, and now a new protein is going to be produced, okay? So from that mutation, we have different kind of living organisms, but some of them are going to, that mutation is not going to cause a favorable condition. So this one is going to die, but the other two are going to survive, right? They are going to survive, reproduce, and again, a mutation is going to happen again, and they are going to survive, okay? From that favorable mutations, they are more likely to survive and reproduce, and we're going to have, from this organism at the beginning, we're going to have a new one with new characteristics. That is part of evolution. That is evolution, okay? That is natural selection too. The fittest survive. But that takes a lot of time. So we have this idea, biodiversity arises from evolutionary process. When we talk about evolutionary process, we are talking about a whole bunch of processes that led an organism to evolve. For example, we have thousands of fossil examples showing gradual change in physiology over time. Physiology means all the form of the bones, the length of the skeleton, all those are physiology or physical characteristics. So here we have an example of how we have an ancestor from the early modern whale. So this line represents millions of years ago, so less than 50 million years ago, we have this Anthracotheres that is the main ancestor of this whale. Okay, and we can see how the bones have changed, the skeleton has changed, and all the other characteristics. And some of them has lost their size, but are there, okay? Those physiological changes match with mutation rates, as evidenced by mitochondrial DNA. What is mitochondrial DNA? In the DNA, in the cell, in any kind of cell, we have a mitochondria, right? Mitochondria is the only organelle that has its own DNA. And from that DNA, something told the scientists that something was happening, something was preserved from that kind of mutation. So we have a normal mitochondria with DNA proliferation, but something happened. We can have a random segregation. That means that it's al azar, right? And that is going to change the phenotype. When we talk about phenotype, we're talking about the expression of the genotype. I think you studied that in biology with Paola. So, genotype are the characteristics of the genes, okay? And phenotype are the physical characteristics that a living organism produces. There are also numerous examples of evolution currently happening in the natural world. Additionally, evolutionary biologists have been able to induce evolutionary changes in controlled lab experiments. And in this case, we have moths, and they have changed in order to have a new characteristic that is a mimic characteristic. When I say mimic, they are trying to reproduce the same environment. That way they can hide from predators. You can see as a predator, if you were a predator, you can see here the moth. And in this one, you cannot see it because it has like a cover that is similar to the cover of the tree. In other words, we have an overwhelming amount of evidence supporting evolutionary theory. Which are those evidences that we have? Fossil records, structure of DNA, how DNA has been changing in the different ages, mechanisms of mutations, another one, and also these are homologous and analogous structures that we have in common with some of the animals. Okay, for example, these are limbs of human, frog, whale, horse, lion, human, bat, and bird. If you analyze them, you can see that they have similarities and differences, right? But some of them present like two bones that have a similar composition here, or maybe the function of those bones are similar. From that, we can say that we are coming from a natural common ancestor. Important terms that we are going to learn and we must learn in this chapter are evolution. Evolution is a change in the gene pool of a population over time, or a gradual change of genetic characteristics in a long period of time. Natural selection is a process by which individuals that are better suited to their environment survive and reproduce more successfully. Natural selection was a theory established by Charles Darwin, and he made many investigations about that. Okay? Adaptation, an inherited characteristic that increases an organism's chance of survival. So something that change, a physical characteristic that change in the organism that led this organism to survive and be stronger. Now we're going to talk about Charles Darwin. He proposed the theory of evolution, and he wrote The Origin of Species, explaining all the discoveries that he made in different islands, mainly in the Galapagos Islands. So he noticed something strange between the same species and how had been changing over time. Evolution is the cumulative gradual change in the genetic characteristics of successive generations of a species or race of an organism, ultimately giving rise to species or races different from the common ancestor. This is how humans have changed over time, right?